I'm Elizabeth, this is the Bookish North. Welcome to my second video of this year's Sagalong. So we're still reading Njåls saga. I'm reading my Norwegian translation. This week we have read chapters 41 to 80 and I will leave links to all of the other hosts down below so you can go watch their videos as well. So this week I wanted to do something slightly different to what I did last week. Last week I felt like I really didn't know what I wanted to say and I felt like it was very much because I was mired into the details of what I had been reading. I was reading two different translations. I was comparing them to the Old Norse version that I was trying to read without actually being able to read Old Norse, but I tried anyways, and it all got a bit muddled. But then I went and watched the videos of all of the other hosts of this, and I had so many thoughts after doing that. I wrote a bunch of notes. Could have written a thesis on this saga by now, but I'm not going to. Not going to do the video version of that either, because that would be very, very long and I doubt anyone would want to hear that. But I think my main takeaway from watching all of those videos was to see how differently we read this based on what we have read before. So we see different things, we compare it to different things, we ask different questions. And I find this is one of the things that makes reading it like this with other people is so rewarding and brings so much extra to the reading experience. So I'm very grateful for doing Sagalong with such amazing people. But today I thought I would just try to take a step back, because I feel like I wanted to look at how my view of this world is and what it is formed by. And I'm saying that I'm not an expert in this. I'm not a historian or a philologist or anything like that. But ever since I was in my early teens, I've been deeply fascinated with this world, and I've been reading the prose and poetic Edda, and I've been reading the sagas, and I've been reading a lot of non-fiction about this. And all of that together has sort of formed my worldview of Iceland at this time. I'm of course not sure if it is correct. Most likely it is far off. But it's still what I bring into it when I'm reading this. And I wanted to just take a step back and look at what I'm thinking of this. And it made me think about how I read fantasy books, because you're getting these small clues to how our world functions, and that is the world building, and that informs your whole view of it. And I feel like that is also what has happened when you read a lot of sagas. You get this sort of world building style hints of what's going on, and it makes you form a picture of your own, and it's that picture I wanted to take a look at today. So one thing to begin with, a very, very short glimpse of Norwegian history, but Norway at the start of the Viking Age was not one kingdom, it was rather many smaller kingdoms. And then the one person that has been credited with collecting Norway to one kingdom is called Harald Hårfagre in Norwegian, or Harold the Fair-Haired, I think is called in English. He lived from around 850 to 930, and he's credited with collecting all of Norway. It is very much disputed how much of Norway he actually ruled, but a larger portion than kings before him. And so he was, gaining power by force at this time. And how you reacted to that was, there were different approaches. There were some who joined him and just accepted the fact that that put them one step down the ladder in the power structure. There were some who fought him and lost and died, and there were quite a lot who emigrated to Iceland. And it's been said that this was sort of the driving force of the colonization of Iceland, people trying to get away from this power-hungry king that wanted to change everything. And that is probably why Iceland never got a king of its own, but stayed a form of republic where things were decided at the Althing in sort of a mutual discussions rather than rather than by a king. Or so it had very weak. Iceland at this time had a very weak state, and it was also a very new country. Still, though, it was a very hierarchical society. And you should always know your place in the hierarchy. You should know your place in relation to people you meet and how to act accordingly. There are plenty of examples in the sagas about this. It is a hierarchy where it's possible to climb, and it looks, particularly in Iceland, like, you know, new money is not frowned upon. You can climb the hierarchy. You can do that through gaining money or gaining in honor, and this society is very much sort of it's hierarchy, it's a family society, and it's an honor society, and these three things are deeply, deeply connected. You can gain places in the hierarchy through advantageous marriages, through getting wealthy, or to gaining honor, and yeah, deeply connected. There are plenty of things informing us that this is a society that places great value in family, and, you know, the genealogy lists every time a person is introduced is one of these signs. But you also see a lot of a lot of time and place in the sagas given to various kinds of alliances building up. The strongest kind of alliance is through marriage, where when you marry your son or your daughter to someone of a different family, you're not just doing something for them, you are actually binding the families together, because after this you have obligations to that family, and that family will have obligations to you. Another way of creating these kinds of alliances is through the fostering system, where the people sent their children to be fostered by others, and thus linking their family to yours as well, with the same kind of obligations. And then you have the weaker tie, which is just friendship. But friendship was also very much binding, but it was just when things came into conflict with each other, family ties always trumps the friendship ties. That's what's going to lose out. And then you have honor playing into this, and honor in this kind of society is like currency. I mean, you can rise in the hierarchy through gaining wealth or through gaining honor. So they are sort of different kinds of currencies. And I feel like in Njåls saga, Gunnar and Njål are very much what do you call it? They're embodiments of these two kinds of power, because Gunnar is the athletic, the good-looking, the poster boy Viking. He is the one who has gone off raiding and fighting, gone to Norway, been with the king, done all of those things, and so he has gained a lot of honor during that route. And then you have Njål, who's the other kind of powerful. He has he's a big landowner, he's very wealthy, and he's got a lot of relations. I mean, he has children that he has gotten into advantageous marriages, he has had them out to foster, he has a huge network of allies and people coming to him for help. So he's that kind of wealth and property kind of powerful. And when you're reading the sagas, it is important to remember that the people the sagas are about, like Njål and Gunnar, the main characters, are always at the top of the hierarchy. We are following the elite, and then you see a lot of people you meet in the sagas circling them are the less powerful. And we see the slaves, and we see freedmen, and we see sons of freedmen. So you see less powerful people, but you always see them in relation to these elite and powerful people that are at the center of the conflicts. And another thing I feel is interesting, and it's something that shifts from this time that we're reading about in the sagas and into Christian times, is how you are judged by your actions. Because in Christianity, you are judged by your actions on whether or not they are good or bad, and it will impact you personally, because you will either be going to heaven or hell depending on your actions on earth. Whereas in this society, your actions does not just impact yourself, it has implications for your entire family. And when you die, the kind of actions you have done and the things you have been involved in does not necessarily affect you where you are going after death, but it will keep affecting your family and in generations to come. So this is where honor and family are tied together, and where your actions have implications for many other people than yourself. And because of that, it's not just yourself who needs to repair things that are wrong, it is the responsibility of the entire family. And honor is based on expectations in society, the things you are expected to do or be. So you can, again, you see Njål, which is the well-connected, rich landowner. You see Gunnar, which is this amazing fighter, so athletic, good-looking, well-liked. And he has chosen to go abroad. We see lots of people doing this in the sagas, go abroad to gain honor and wealth through fighting rather than through intermarrying and making alliances with people. But these are different set of values, and you keep seeing them. And in this saga, you have the alliance between Gunnar and Njål makes them almost unbeatable, because you have both of these, sort of the epiphany of both, and people try to come at them, but they always come off losing, and they are losing face, and they're not really giving up, because they have really bruised their honor and they need to do something to repair it. So they keep coming back for more, even though they are constantly being torn off or just losing face. And all through it, Gunnar is gaining power, gaining face, because he keeps winning these lawsuits and he keeps winning the fights, and he just paints a bigger and bigger target on himself, because bringing him down will be something that will really boost your own honor in this. But we also see it among the women, and it is said that the Viking world was a more equal world than what came after it with Christianity when Christianity came to the Nordic countries. And it is probably true in the way that women had more power at this point than they had later, but it is not equal in the terms that there were the same kind of expectations for men and women. They had very distinct roles, and they had different kinds of expectations linked to them. And for a woman, her domain was very much the home, but in the home she reigned supreme. And we see this in the saga, both when Hallgjerd and Unn gets married. It is made a point of the fact that once they arrive in their new household with their new husband, they are immediately given the keys. And the keys are the symbol that they are the ruler of the domain of home. And we see with Hallgjerd, the key of the conflict with her first husband is him challenging her domain by saying that she is using too much of their resources, that she's too spendy, it's not a word, but yeah, that she's wasteful with their resources. So he's challenging her domain and she is not there for it. It's also interesting to see when Unn wants to divorce Ruth. She does not do this on her own. Before she does it, she goes to her father, she seeks advice, gets his permission, and gets his advice, certainly. He's telling her how to do it, but he needs to okay it, because he's the head of the family, and her getting out of the marriage is going to affect the alliances they have. And again, another thing here with the honor system, we see that Ruth, after this happens, he chooses to keep her dowry, and they are, they, as in Un and her father Mord, are challenging this in the court, and Ruth stands up and he says he will fight them for it, and then Mord has to back down because he's old and he knows he's gonna lose that fight. But again, I feel like this is a part of Ruth trying to keep face, because his wife divorced him because he was not able to perform sexually, and without having this fight and winning this law case with the dowry, he would have lost face, and he could not have this. So instead he's winning this, and Mord is the one losing face in the court because he's backing away from the fight. And then eventually Gunnar, of course, goes and does the same to Ruth, and then he's the one gaining face. But then they're making an alliance through marriage instead, and it sort of evens out. Another thing you see with the women is how the feud between Hallgjerd and Bergthora, the wives of Gunnar and Njål, starts out. And this is very much in the domain of home, when Hallgjerd is visiting Bergthora, and she is sitting in the high seat, which is the seat of power. The most powerful person gets to sit there. And she's not sitting in the actual high seat because it is Bergthora's home. It is obvious that she is the person in power, but it's the place next to hers. And Hallgjerd is sitting there, and then when Bergthora's daughter-in-law enters, Bergthora demands that Hallgjerd goes away and let her have the seat. And Hallgjerd refuses because she thinks she is more powerful and that she is higher in the hierarchy than the daughter-in-law. But Bergthora insists, because this is her home, this is her domain, she's the one who's deciding. Hallgjerd is challenging that, and that is the beginning of their conflict that leads with at least 8 deaths. No, more than that. So that's what starts the cycle of revenge between them. So my battery ran out, and I just charged it for like 10 minutes to have enough juice to just finish this video. I think it's my camera trying to tell me that I'm running on too long. So yeah, I think this is where I end it this week. I could have talked for hours, but I'm not going to. So I hope you're all enjoying the saga. I'm enjoying it immensely, reading it like this and watching the other people's videos. And I highly encourage you to do the same. And yeah, I'll talk to you again next week. Until then, bye.